The new narco-terror. For decades, Argentina stood as an exception in Latin America's drug wars. Its violence, though rising, never reached the brazen, theatrical cruelty of its neighbors. But in September 2025, the line was not just crossed, it was broadcast. This is the story of three young women, Brenda del Castillo, Morena Verdi, and Lara Gutierrez. They were lured, tortured, and murdered, not in secret, but for an audience. Their final, terrifying moments allegedly live-streamed by a drug gang, turning a private act of brutality into a new, terrifying form of narco-terror for all to see. The location: Florencio Varela, a southern suburb of Buenos Aires. The message: absolute control. The medium: social media. This is how the Argentinian underworld sent its coldest warning yet. The victims and the vanishing. Brenda and Morena were cousins, both 20 years old. Lara was just 15. They came from La Matanza, a deprived area where opportunities are scarce and the shadow of drug trafficking is long. Investigators would later confirm the girls were tragically navigating precarious circumstances. On the evening of Friday, September 19, 2025, the three went missing. Authorities believe they were lured with the promise of money, only to fall into a deadly trap. They were driven to a house in Florencio Varela. This house, the destination of a lie, would become known as the House of Horrors. When their worried families reported them missing, the initial investigation was a race against time. The breakthrough was chilling. According to Buenos Aires Security Minister Javier Alonso, information from an arrested suspect led police to the darkest discovery. The torture and murder had been transmitted live on a private social media group, allegedly on Instagram or TikTok, to an audience of around 45 people. Security Minister Javier Alonso say, all that session of murder and torture was transmitted live on social media. The gang leader chose to do this to discipline his members. This was not a random act. It was a calculated performance of terror. Argentina's drug trade has exploded, with the port city of Rosario becoming a major hub for cocaine trafficking. Now, the violence has metastasized to the capital's periphery. The suspected mastermind was quickly identified as Pequeño J, Little J, a Peruvian national and alleged leader of a small but ruthless gang operating in the area of Villa the 11th of January 14. The motive was revenge and a demonstration of power. Police investigation team says, in the horrifying footage obtained by investigators, the voice of a gang leader was allegedly heard saying, "This is what happens to those who steal drugs from me." The victim was targeted for allegedly stealing a package of cocaine. The live-streamed cruelty, the dismemberment and suffocation, was a cold, unambiguous warning. It was meant to be shared in the digital space, to instill obedience in rival gangs and, more importantly, in their own subordinates. Social media, designed for connection, had been weaponized for absolute psychological control. 5 days after their disappearance, following the tracing of the women's cell phone signals, the police arrived at the house. The dismembered bodies of Brenda, Morena, and Lara were found buried in the backyard. The sheer brutality shocked the forensic teams. Leonel del Castillo, father of Brenda, says, "Women must be protected more than ever. I could not identify my daughter's body due to the abuse she had endured." Antonio del Castillo, grandfather of Brenda, says, "You wouldn't do what they did to them to an animal." The ensuing investigation resulted in the arrest of multiple suspects in Argentina. However, the alleged ringleader, Pequeño J, fled the country. The international manhunt quickly escalated, leading to an Interpol red notice. Just days later, Argentine officials confirmed that the suspected mastermind had been detained in Peru. The rapid, effective police work was a small victory, but it did nothing to erase the trauma of what had occurred. A crucial question remained. How could a drug gang execute this level of calculated violence, live, and use the power of modern technology to multiply its terror? The use of a closed social media group for the livestream highlights a dark evolution in cartel operations. It's a digital frontier for their violence, a way to guarantee a chilling audience and proof of execution for their rivals. Argentine officials, including Security Minister Alonso, publicly stated the act was streamed on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. The public outcry immediately turned on the tech giants. Parent company Meta issued a strong denial, stating they found no evidence of the livestream taking place on Instagram. They confirmed they were cooperating with law enforcement. This official dispute highlights the ongoing struggle to monitor private, closed groups, the new dark corners of social media where content moderation often fails, or is impossible until after the fact. Sociologist and activist says, the platform doesn't matter. What matters is the normalization of this violence. The gang knew it could be used as an advertisement for their power. It's an algorithm of fear, designed to go viral within their own criminal network. News of the murders and the livestream ignited a firestorm across Argentina. Thousands poured into the streets of Buenos Aires in a furious demand for justice, led by the powerful feminist movement, Ni Una Menos, or Not One Woman Less. Protester and family member says, "Our lives are not disposable. We are not afraid." Activists immediately labeled the crime a narco-femicide, emphasizing how poverty and gender expose the most vulnerable to the extreme violence of the drug world. This case became a terrifying symbol of the country's deepening social crisis, where a marginalized population, especially women, is trapped between economic desperation and the brutal control of drug mafias. The protest was a cry of anguish for the 3 victims, but also a demand for the Argentine state to acknowledge a fundamental shift. The calculated savagery seen in other parts of Latin America has arrived. The era of Argentina being immune from this level of organized, televised terror is over. The arrests of the alleged killers offer a measure of closure for the families of Brenda del Castillo, Morena Verde, and Lara Gutierrez. But the fundamental terror remains. Drug gangs in Argentina, like cartels across the globe, have found their new broadcast studio. They are no longer content with localized threats. They seek to project their power onto the most pervasive platforms humanity has ever known. They are exporting their violence, not just across borders, but through the screens in our pockets. The livestream of Florencio Varela was a calculated atrocity, a sign of the bloodbath to come. The question for Argentina is no longer if drug gangs will kill, but how long it will take for the next terrifying performance to begin.